Welcome back, guys, to the Soul Ecosystem Podcast. I am your host, Anna Rising, a professional soul contract reader. And today's episode, we are going to be exploring another subconscious program, one that pops up a lot and is often very paradoxical. This program is called the trap program, and it is when our inner strength and independence become walls that kind of trap us instead of being tools that help us evolve and grow. This program essentially gives the vibe of the boss babe that boss babed too hard and became so hyper independent that she isn't able to ask for help. She doesn't know when to ask for help and ends up putting a lot more pressure and a lot more work on herself than she needs to, because she has a support system around her that she can go to, but she just doesn't know when it's time to go there. And she's so used to doing everything on her own that thought doesn't even cross her mind. Whenever she's faced with a problem, she immediately goes to, how am I going to fix this? How can I set myself up in the best possible way to take care of this, instead of going to ask for help, instead of realizing that this issue could be taken care of very quickly if she just leaned on somebody and knew how to ask them for support. So if you've ever been stuck in a very painful pattern, or you notice that you keep repeating the same cycles over and over again, and you cannot for the life of you figure out what is going on here, because the common denominator is you. And although the external circumstances change constantly, you are still attracting certain situations. This episode is for you. So, quick rundown of the trap program. It manifests as the combination of the numbers 19, 8, and 7. It denotes a hyper independence, a reluctance to rely on other people, ask for help, as well as a bit of emotional or physical, even, claustrophobia. This person is very guarded. They're very likely to be afraid to kind of reveal all of their quirks, reveal all of the things that make them, that make them authentic, because they've got their walls up. They also have this innate ability to kind of sniff out when people are trying to control them or manipulate them. So there's this fear of being controlled or manipulated, because this ability to sniff out people that manipulate and control comes from them having experienced it. So they very much likely experienced this in childhood. People that have this program, they likely experienced very strict and rigid parental figures, and they're afraid of repeating those same patterns where they kind of let themselves be led, be manipulated, be controlled. So they're like hyper aware of the potential for that happening. So they got their walls up and they refuse to subject themselves to that. The only problem is that they're already on guard for this to happen, and they might project a little bit onto others this fear and kind of manifest it into reality. Now, operating from the positive, this is a superpower. This is a talent. And I've said this before, but whenever you see subconscious programs in your chart, they will tell you the strengths and the weaknesses, the potential issues that can happen as side effects of this subconscious program. I know that the brain automatically goes to the negative. It's like, okay, how is this manifesting negatively? How do I make sure it doesn't manifest negatively? But the thing about that is, when you're operating from the light, when you're operating from the positive, all of these things that could attract negative situations in your life, they are flipped. They turn into superpowers of yours. They turn into talents. So people with this subconscious program are really good at accountability, responsibility. They're able to recognize their mistakes. They're able to make decisions very confidently. These people are kind of direct, not afraid to take charge, not afraid to take the lead, not afraid to be the person that takes accountability for the project if it goes completely wrong. So again, boss babe energy. If you have the subconscious program trap and it's manifesting positively for you, You are a person that doesn't take any BS. You are very direct. You know how to handle yourself professionally and how to make things happen. People with this program often come across as incredibly grounded and self-sufficient. They don't just survive situations, like they learn to thrive in it. They learn how to handle things and get things done. Now, behind that strength is a hidden wound. So when you start to feel yourself spiral a little bit, when things get too overwhelming for you, when you end up taking on way more than you originally planned to or are capable of handling, things start to go downhill. This turns into a gigantic blind spot for you if you have this program. This turns into a person that if you just came to somebody else with this problem and told them, hey, I'm having this and this issue, and asked for their insight on this, they would be like, okay, this is common sense. This is the problem. But because these people don't know when to ask for help, don't know when to seek it, because they're so hyper independent, so used to having to figure it all out on their own, they don't do that. They don't look for outside perspective or outside insight because they think they need to handle all of it themselves. And what ends up happening is they make a gigantic blind spot. They put on blinders and they're trying to solve this issue that seems that it could be complex. It could be very simple, but they don't see any way around it. They're completely trapped. This leads them to feel very hopeless. It leads them to feel like they have no way out of a situation and they're almost like accepting of it. They're like, okay, this is my life. This is just what happens for me. This is what I manifest, because they manifest it so often because the same pattern repeats over and over again. And it's trying to teach them, hey, you don't have to take this all on yourself. You can ask for assistance. You can reach out to other people and be like, hey, I'm really struggling with this. But they don't do that. And what ends up happening is they expect something external to shift. They expect that they can either just ride this out because they've accepted it as some kind of pattern, right? They're like, oh, it's going to go away on its own eventually. And that just does not happen, because the lesson here is to seek external help, seek support. They need to learn the importance of community, the importance of admitting that you cannot do everything, not putting all of that pressure on yourself, and asking for help. So this creates stagnation in your energy. This creates a blockage that can lead to years of frustration because you're going through the same cycle over and over again. This could be a cycle in a relationship where you keep attracting people that have certain tendencies. This could be a pattern in your workplace. You could have managers that are very, very toxic, or bosses that are very toxic, and you keep trying to wait them out and trying to be like, okay, this manager has this and this much left on their contract. I'll just wait it out until the next one, and then the next one comes along and it's the same pattern. They're very toxic. This waiting that they tend to do is actually paralysis. It doesn't serve them in any way, and they are missing the point here that they do need to take action, but they are paralyzed because of this wound. They're afraid of being controlled. They're afraid of being manipulated. They're terrified of depending on anybody. So again, hyper independent, walls up, suppressing emotions because they are avoiding being vulnerable. They don't want to appear weak. They don't want to appear like they don't know what they're doing. They don't want to appear unintelligent. So it's all of the things, all of these emotions and frustrations rise up for them. And this is a very, very difficult place to be in when you're in the thick of it, when you keep repeating the same patterns and you don't know what you're doing wrong. You don't know why you keep manifesting toxic situations, ridiculous neighbors even, or crazy roommates. So the sole lesson here is that not all strength is stoic. Sometimes true strength is knowing when to ask for help. Sometimes it's admitting that you don't know what you're doing. Sometimes it's admitting that you don't know how to get out of this, and choosing an action, taking a step into a direction, even if it is unknown, even if you have no idea what's going to come of it, choosing to take action when the path forward is full of uncertainty. Now, some famous people that have this program are Princess Diana, Michael Jackson, Sylvester Stallone, James Dean, Richie Valens, and Natasha Richardson. The commonality between all of these souls is that they lived larger than life existences, but often felt trapped by circumstance, identity, or expectations. And their stories, their paths kind of reflect this program in reality. We can definitely see this playing out in Princess Diana's reality. Princess Diana's life was definitely marred by a feeling of entrapment, trapped in a marriage where she was clearly not loved, where there was another woman that was involved. She felt trapped in this love triangle and didn't know how to get out. I can definitely see how she would feel hopeless in that, and she would feel like she is trying so hard to kind of win over her husband, win over his favor, get him to love her. She talked about developing an eating disorder because he would comment on her weight. So her soul longed to be free of this cyclical pattern, to be free of this situation. And she ended up finding a way to do that. She had to leave. She had to take that step into uncertainty, take a step into what happens when somebody walks away from the royal family, from a marriage in the royal family, right? Michael Jackson spoke a lot about his struggles with the music industry, trying to control him, his past trauma as a child. These are all people that are hyper aware of being controlled and manipulated. They're on the lookout for it. So they're like, I'm not going to ask anybody for help. I got this. I'll take care of it. And that is their weakness. For Sylvester Stallone, we see him get rejected after writing the script for Rocky. He was getting rejected everywhere, and he still kept going. He still kept taking the action of uncertainty, of taking the step into the unknown, even though he could be faced with rejection, even though he could be laughed out of Hollywood, right? He managed to make a name for himself on his own because of his dedication, putting all of his eggs in one basket on this script, and Rocky ended up blowing up, right? That's the reward for taking a step into the unknown, doing something that nobody has really done before. So the action part is the key here. When you are faced with this program, when you are extremely hyper independent and don't know when to delegate, don't know when to take some tasks off of your shoulders and pass it on, or ask for help. Action is the key. Don't wait for the perfect solution. Don't wait for the perfect option. You're like, I'm going to try this and this. Like, I'm going to therapy when I find the perfect therapist that aligns with me in any way that you feel that they need to align. Don't wait for that to happen. Make a step, any step into the direction that moves you forward. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it brings discomfort, even if it's challenging, even if you are scared. Recognize that the feeling of being trapped isn't always real. Imagine that you are in a trap of your own making. You are manifesting yourself in a bear trap. You're manifesting this bear trap that is around your foot, and you think that the only way that you're going to be able to get out of it is if somebody passes by and opens it up for you. Don't limit yourself to that, because this is a trap of your own making. Sometimes the trap isn't there. And give voice to what you are afraid to say, which is, I don't know how to get out of this. I don't know what to do here. And let that be a starting point. Let that be the beginning of how you solve this problem, instead of it being the end, instead of it being like, that's it, this career is over, or this is done, this relationship is over. you essentially start to hyperventilate and feel like you cannot breathe, even though you can. There's oxygen in the room. Why do people start to hyperventilate and feel like they can't breathe? They feel like they can't breathe, and they're manifesting not being able to breathe because they start hyperventilating. It's kind of the same concept. So, some journaling prompts that can help you start to untangle what step you need to take in order to take a step forward, any step forward that is outside of this feeling that you're trapped in. You could write a journal prompt about, what do I feel trapped by? Is it my job? Is it my relationship? Is it my location? What is the solution that I've been resisting? Have I been resisting making a move? Have I been resisting moving out of the country? If you feel like American politics are getting too much right now, have you been resisting moving out of the country? Have you been resisting breaking off a relationship you know that is no longer serving you because there are some fears attached to it? Have you been afraid of leaving a toxic work environment or leaving a job where there's no growth for you anymore because you don't know where to go from there? And lastly, if you believed you couldn't fail, what action would you take right now? If you knew that there was no way that this wasn't going to work, what action would you take? If you're hesitant about moving because you're afraid that you're not going to be able to find a social group in that city or in that country, what if you knew that there was already a soul family there for you already? Your soul tribe is waiting for you to make this move so they can meet you, or the relationship that you are afraid of ending. What if you knew that there is another relationship on the horizon or another job opportunity on the horizon for you? What would you do if you knew this couldn't fail? Try to practice breath work or movement, either in yoga or Pilates or working out in some way, in order to get out of your freeze response, in order to get out of the paralysis analysis response where you are so overwhelmed by all of the options out there that have no indication that they could be successful. In order to get out of that, start practicing movement and breath work. The best way out of this kind of program is to take things one step at a time. So do things scared. Don't wait for it to feel like you are strong enough to do it. Don't wait to feel like you're not afraid to do it anymore. This trap only works when we are not moving. It only works when we are standing still and too terrified to take a step, to take an action out of this situation. The moment you begin to move spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, you start breaking down these self-imposed barriers. You start breaking down these invisible walls. And I have the perfect example of this. In my personal life, I definitely feel that I had this subconscious program because I felt so trapped. I felt like the walls were closing in on me. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I blamed myself. I'm like, why can't I just be happy in this home? It's not like it's that tiny, but I feel so suffocated. I feel like the walls are closing in on me. And I was freshly postpartum after going through a complicated situation with my newborn, and I had no support. And I got tired of being paralyzed. I got tired of being so scared to do anything that I wasn't able to do anything at all. So I made the conscious choice to start going to the gym. Taking that one step, by the way, I've never went to the gym before. I always felt so insecure about working out in front of other people. I felt like everybody would be looking at me. It was my worst nightmare. But taking that one step, I had to shut off my brain. I had to shut off all the parts of me that were like, people are going to judge you. People are going to look at you. People are going to be like, oh, like you need to lose more weight before you think about going to the gym. I don't know. There was a lot of reservations for me about going. And essentially, I had to shut off my brain. I'm like, I'm just going to take it step by step. Got out of the car, walked in there, didn't think about it. I didn't let my mind run and play out all of these scary scenarios that I had in my mind for some reason. And taking that step started building up my confidence. It started giving me myself back. It started giving me more strength, both mentally and physically. And it led to a cascade of events that helped me get out of the depressive episode that I was in, helped me know that I can tackle whatever it is that I need to tackle. I just have to start somewhere. You just have to take the first step, do it scared, do it uncertain, do it stepping into the unknown, like stepping onto an invisible bridge, but you have to start. You were never meant to do this alone. Humans need support. Humans need community and a support system. And what the TRAP program does is it teaches us that freedom doesn't come from control. It doesn't come from being able to predict everything and control everything, control every outcome, and make sure that you are prepared for everything, because you are intelligent enough to think of everything that could possibly happen. Like, this is something that I would get trapped in. I would get focused on trying to predict every possible outcome so I could be mentally prepared for the worst case scenario. And it's just putting you back in that state where you get into a freeze response and you get paralyzed and you're like, okay, that's really bad. I don't know if I can handle the worst case scenario happening, so I can't do that. So freedom doesn't come from control. It comes from surrender, from trusting yourself enough to take action. This is the part that I especially needed to learn. And I wish I had somebody telling me this when I was going through this. You need to be able to trust yourself. And at that point, I did not trust myself. I didn't trust my thoughts. I didn't trust my reality, my version of reality. It's a coming back to yourself and realizing that you can trust that you'll be able to bring yourself through this. And you can also ask for help and trust that other people aren't going to sabotage you in some way. You can trust that there are people out there that will help you along your path. So you don't have to do it alone. You deserve to be free. You don't have to stay in that trap. Your soul chose this program not to imprison you, but to remind you that there is always a way out. Even if you are in a 10-foot deep hole and the only way out is up, there is always another way out. It might not always be easy, but it's there. And it begins with you. It begins with you taking that first step, doing what feels like you are jumping off a cliff, but you do need to take the step. Thank you for journeying with me through this program. I hope that I was able to paint an accurate enough description of this program, because this program pops up a lot and it is very heavy if it runs for a very long time, because the hopelessness that kicks in when you are facing the same patterns over and over again can get very, very severe. So I hope this gives you hope. I hope it gives you hope. I hope it helps you understand that in order to get out of the same pattern, you have to take a step into something different. You have to try something different. And something different might be not doing this on your own anymore, asking for outside help, asking for people to help you through this. So if the TRAP program resonates with you, I would love to hear your thoughts. Please DM me on Instagram or leave a comment or review on this podcast episode. And if you're curious about the subconscious programs in your own chart, you can always visit my website at thesoulecosystem.com or my Etsy shop, The Soul Ecosystem, and purchase your own soul contract to take a look at the programs that you have signed up for to clear in this incarnation. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next Friday. Have a wonderful weekend.